Monday morning devotional of Thanksgiving week. Here we go. I got an email last week from somebody in our church, and they emailed me because they were offended. They felt like they were slighted by somebody, not me, but they just felt like that person had been unkind to them and said some things that were untrue. And I tried to encourage them, like show them grace, figure out how to give them some space, and be kind. Because that person's going through a hard time right now. The very next day, I got an email back that said, I extended grace, and I also extended a meal. They took a meal over to their house, to the person who offended them. And by the end of the conversation, they said they were both laughing. I think that is such a great example of someone taking responsibility for moving a relationship from potentially toxic to healthy. And that's what we've been talking about in this whole series called Toxic. And yesterday we wrapped up the final installment, the final message of the series Toxic. And we finished with this verse right here. It's only 5 words that we emphasize, and it went like this. What counts is the new creation. I think Paul's making a statement about all the religious efforts that people were making. Like, if you're going to be a believer, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. And he's like, stop, pause. Here's what counts. At the end of this, he wraps up this whole letter with, what counts is the new creation. Meaning this, your relationship with Jesus and how he's transforming you, the new creation he's making you. And I would invite you to think about it in these terms as well. It's not just the new creation he's making you, but it's the new creation he's making all of your relationships. And the context is the relationships in the church. It's how he's making the church new. So this morning, I want you to think of it in 3 terms. 1, how is God making you a new creation? 2, how's God making your marriage a new creation together? And then how is God making your church a new creation? I asked this yesterday. When you deal with toxic relationships, counselors will often ask, how did you get here? What led to this? So that behavior can change, right? We can identify the toxic behaviors and replace them with healthy behaviors. But at some point, you have to ask this question. What is the preferred future? And so those 3 areas, here's what I'm going to invite you to do. Get alone. Maybe right now. Maybe this week. Maybe a couple times this week. Get alone. And I want you to write down, what is your preferred future for your relationship with God? And maybe you're going to think about 2021, this next year. The preferred relationship, the healthy relationship that I want with God is what? And then write this down. The preferred relationship I want with my spouse is, and write that down. And it's not just what you want. Obviously, the question is, what's God's preferred future for you? And then the third question. What's the preferred future for your church? How do you want to belong? How do you want to connect? Who will you build long-lasting relationships with? Find some time during this week of Thanksgiving. Give God thanks. And write down specifically, here's the preferred future that I think God wants for me in those 3 areas. Have a great Thanksgiving week.